Stay tuned for another exciting story about American veterans as told by the veterans themselves and hosted by Randy Baxter, the host of The Veteran Next Door.
The Veteran Next Door. Here's your host, Randall Baxter.
Welcome to The Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter. Today's show is a very special show about a Vietnam veteran, Mr. J.L. Tucker, who served in Vietnam from 1965 to 1966. JL's with us this morning. How you doing, JL?
Fine. Thank you, Randy, for having me.
Well, you're welcome. For those of you who follow the history of the Vietnam War, it was 1965 when it really started heating up, and there was a battle there and even a book written about it, We Were Soldiers, in Ia Drang Valley. But there were some other little hamlets around there. Play Me, Play Coup.
Non-K.
And On K?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the two base camps.
Okay. All right. And well, before we get started into it, I just want to let you know, all you folks that have been listening to it a long time, I'm not a veteran. So there's sometimes I can't fathom some of the things that the veterans experience. I can't share them with you. You have to hear it from the veterans themselves. And we really appreciate the ones that have been on the show recently to share their stories so that we know that they didn't just come, they didn't just go to Vietnam and then come back home and go back to their normal lives. They went to Vietnam and experienced things that changed their lives, and that they have carried with them ever since that happened. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. But to give you an idea what the story is going to be about today, we're going to take an Army clerk, supply clerk in Vietnam, and who's used to doing paperwork and used to doing things that whatever had to be done, supply specialists and things like that. And then he's going to hear that they need not a volunteer, but several volunteers. Mm-hmm. And this soldier volunteered to do whatever he had to do on that mission that day. And that's what our show is going to be about, was what happened to him on that mission, what he experienced, what he saw, what he felt, and again, how he carried that with him for so long. So stay tuned. You're listening to Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we'll be right back.
In my tears,
The Veteran Next Door will return in a moment.
Sun up on a cool, sweet morning. Sausage frying in the pan. Make that sausage always Wamplers. It's the finest in the land. Wamplers, Wamplers, it's great sausage made on the farm in Tennessee. Don't say sausage, just say Wamplers for the best in quality. Make that sausage always Wamplers. It's the best in quality.
Energize, detoxify, and hydrate 6 times faster with Hydrate Alkaline Ionized Water. Hydrate is available at the Veteran Next Door store at 4812 Asheville Highway, or you can call the Veteran Next Door store at 865-525-2323. That's 865-525-2323. Also available at your local Knoxville area Walgreens and Kroger stores. Bottled at the source in Dandridge, Tennessee, this natural spring water and effective antioxidant reduces acid waste, hydrates cells quickly, and tastes delicious. Hydrate is a veteran-owned business and a proud sponsor of the Veteran Next Door. For more information about Hydrate Alkaline Ionized Water and the benefits it provides, and for wholesale and private label options, visit www.historicsprings.com. That's historicsprings.com. Try it today.
Statements not evaluated by the FDA nor meant to replace your doctor.
Now back to the Veteran Next Door.
for all the empty years behind me.
Welcome back to The Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and our guest today is J.L. Tucker, who's a veteran from the Vietnam War that had a very special and disturbing and special experience in Vietnam. How you doing, J.L. Tucker?
I'm doing fine. How about you, Randy?
I'm good. So I want to know, Did you live in Knoxville before the war?
No.
Where were you from?
Hillsborough County, Florida, Tampa.
In Tampa, Florida?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's where I went and volunteered.
You volunteered after high school?
I didn't finish high school.
Okay. So you went into the Army, what, at 17?
Yeah, 17.
Did your mama let you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't say anything.
Okay. And did you know where you were going or what you might be doing?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay. Why did you not finish high school and join?
Well, when I was raised, we had large families.
Mhm.
So when you got 16, if you wanted to quit school, you could. You wasn't encouraged to quit, but you wasn't encouraged to attend either. And I had to go to work to help support my family. So when I turned 17, I went to Tampa to the recruiting station and volunteered for 3 years. And back then, we hadn't even heard about Vietnam.
Did you pick the Army, or did you consider the Air Force or the Navy? You just said, I want to go to the Army.
Yeah, I never considered anything else.
Okay. So you joined the Army, and then what happened?
Well, I was sent to Jacksonville where I was inducted. And then they sent me to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training, about 8 weeks. And after a 30-day leave, I went back to Fort Jackson to be trained as a personnel specialist to start with.
What would you do during your 30-day leave first? Did you go back home?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you wear your uniform, walk around town?
No, I never did wear it downtown. I wore it around the house.
Yeah. Okay, so after training, then you went somewhere else?
Yeah, I was sent to Korea for a year.
Okay.
And I served a tour in Korea.
Okay. Then you went home again, or did you go to Vietnam?
Yeah, got a 30-day leave.
Got a 30-day leave. Did you go back home?
Yeah.
Still wearing your uniform?
Yeah.
And then you didn't know where you were going after that?
No. Well, I went back to, I had orders to report to Fort Benning, Georgia. And I became a part of the 383rd Transportation Detachment, which was attached to the 17th Aviation Company. And we were with the first part of the 1st Air Cavalry Division. But at the time, it was the 11th Air Assault. We were training didn't know what to start with, was training to go to Vietnam.
You were 17?
Mm-hmm.
Were there lots of 17-year-old boys in there?
Oh, yes. Many.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get trained.
Yeah.
And then they say you're pack your stuff and we're heading out?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know where you were going then?
Yeah. Yeah, by then we knew. We were training because this was the first time helicopters had been used as a primarily way of getting the troops in and out of battle. And, of course, I was trained to drive trucks. We had to do the 20-mile marches and all that stuff. Then we got orders to deploy to Vietnam, and it became the 1st Air Cavalry Division.
Okay, here's what I want to know. What did you know about Vietnam at the time?
Not very much. I knew we had advisors there.
Okay, did you know where it was? Did you locate it on a map?
No,
or
never looked.
Never looked. Okay. Okay, so hey, Mom, I'm going to Vietnam. Be back soon?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know it was a 1-year deployment, or did you know?
I've had, I think, 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
And when was that? I mean, when did you leave?
February.
February
Mm-hmm.
of 65.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, 66. 66.
No, I mean, when you left America.
Oh, yeah. We left America in August 1965.
Okay. Okay.
And
So it was only 2 months or so, or 3 months before the battle at Ia Drang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We arrived by sea on, I think, August 14th of 1965. And,
Okay. What's your birthday?
15th of March, 1945.
Okay. Okay. So now you were pushing 19 or 20?
20.
20. Okay. So you arrived in Vietnam, and what was your job?
Well, I started out as a supply specialist, and
Okay.
I ordered parts for trucks and aircraft. And we got off the ship the next morning and helicoptered into Pleiku, which wasn't very far from Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the Central Highlands.
Did you wonder what a supply specialist would be doing at Pleiku? Would you be doing the same job?
Mm-hmm. That's what I started out doing, yeah.
Okay, so you started out being a supply specialist, but it changed.
Yeah, because I volunteered. I had to go from Pleiku, usually flew. in a CV-2B aircraft to Ankei, and a lot of times they would be supplies loaded on the conveyor rollers to be dropped into troops in battle. So we would land at Pleiku, and I would do paperwork down there for the division for 2 or 3 days while we were getting a convoy ready to go back to Pleiku.
Did you know you were getting closer to the battle, or were you getting closer to the battle, or was there no battle going on?
There was no battle then, but anywhere you went in Vietnam, you were in danger, you know. And like on the highway going from Ankei to Pleiku, the hillsides were full of caves, and snipers would come out and harass you and shoot at you. And we had the floorboard of the truck full of sandbags because it was dangerous running over a landmine. And they was trying to save our feet and legs. So,
what caused you to volunteer? What you know? And I'm sure. I mean, did you just say, "Hey, I'm going to do anything I can"? Or
yes, sir. Just whatever they needed me to do. And I had a helper in the supply room, so when I was gone, he took over.
Okay, so supply clerk and supply specialist goes to 2 or 3 different. Were they fire bases or were they?
Yeah, no, well, they were base camps.
Base camps. Okay, so help me understand here. If you were in Vietnam and you went somewhere, you'd have a base camp, and then out from there, like a spider, you would have landing zones, or but they would be fed by the base camp.
Supplied, yeah.
Okay, and about how far would the landing zones be?
Well, I'm not quite sure about how many miles, but the Idrang Valley and Play Me and Pleiku wasn't very far apart. And I'm not sure exactly how many miles.
And those were landing zones?
Yeah.
Okay, like landing zone Albany and landing zone X-ray. Okay.
But Play Me was a special forces encampment that became under heavy siege and was nearly overrun.
Before you got there?
No, I was there.
You were there while it was happening? Okay.
Well, I was in Pleiku, and they were just, I think, southeast of us.
Okay. That was the base camp?
The Play Me was an encampment of special forces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you volunteered, and what were your, when you said, okay, I volunteer, what did it tell you were going to do?
Well, I would, like I said, I would fly by aircraft down to Ankei and do paperwork for 2 or 3 days. And then I volunteered to drive one of the trucks, a 2.5-ton truck, back to Pleiku. But there was a whole column, with different supplies, ammunition, fuel, all kinds of stuff.
No IEDs at the time. They didn't use IEDs at the time, did they?
Well, just landmines. There was a lot of landmines.
Yeah. Okay.
They call them claymores.
Okay. All right. And then you got to the place where you volunteered. I mean, were you in a tent when you just said, "Hey, I'll go do that," or were you in a bunker, or were you in a barracks, or?
Well, I was I had an office.
Okay.
But we also had guard duty a couple of times a week. And 3 of us would be in each bunker. We had concrete bunker. And one man would be on top of the bunker, one man would be resting, and one man would be on the M60 machine gun, manning it. And
that was the gun they called the saw.
I never heard it called that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't volunteer.
Yeah, okay.
You had to do that.
Okay, all right. So were you looking to get out of that situation when you volunteered, or did you just say, "Hey, this is just a new"?
Yeah. This is just something's got to be done. We did whatever we was asked.
And before we go to break, what did they tell you had to be done? Or they didn't tell you, did they?
No, just as it comes,
So
when they needed somebody to do something, I did.
Okay, so they walked in and said, "We need volunteers," and you didn't ask. You just said, "I'll go."
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. You're going to hear what happened in the next segment. You're listening to The Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we'll be right back.
The Veteran Next Door will return in a moment.
Stories told and retold from the battlefronts of America's wars by the veterans themselves. The Veteran Next Door. You love the show. Now, get the book. World War II, Volume 1, 1939 to 1946. Read about how our veterans attempted to free children trapped by fascist countries. Learn about the supermen we sent to liberate the world from the crimes of World War II. Stories of Pacific land battles on the land and the sea, battles in Europe, land in the air, survival in the ocean, when a ship sinks and one breaks in half, soldiers who deserve the Medal of Honor, and read the story of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, when many soldiers came home and had to deal with a corrupt county government and prove the need for our Second Amendment. Stories told and retold from the battlefronts of America's wars. Be sure to get your copy at Amazon.com. The Veteran Next Door, Stories from World War II, Volume 1, 1939 through 1946. Don't miss one word of The Veteran Next Door.
You know, if you already have the book, I hope you're enjoying it. But a lot of people ask me, do they have to order through Amazon.com? Answer is no. You can get it direct from me and have it autographed. All you have to do is call 865-525-2323. Or you can go to my website at www.theveterannextdoor.com. And those are all little letters, no spaces, theveterannextdoor.com. Makes a great gift for birthdays, anniversaries, and with Memorial Day coming on, I get emails from people that said they've bought and read the book and they've learned more about their parents by reading the experience of other people during World War II. I think you'd enjoy it too. So give us a call, 865-525-2323, or order the book online at theveterannextdoor.com.
Seniors Helping Seniors, an in-home services company for seniors by seniors. We offer just the services you need to remain independent and living in your own home. The type of services we provide are companionship, housekeeping, meal preparation, transportation, doctor visits, and much more. We provide these services with other caring and compassionate seniors. When these services are provided by other active seniors who really understand what your life is like as a senior, it can make a big difference. We want to keep you independent. We want to keep you safe. We want to bring a little joy to your life. Call Seniors Helping Seniors in-home services today. Find out how we can make a big difference for you or a loved one. Call 865-269-4483. That's 865-269-4483. Seniors Helping Seniors in-home services.
Now back to The Veteran Next Door.
Welcome back to The Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we're here talking to J.L. Tucker, who was in Vietnam. He'd joined the Army before he graduated from high school and gone through training. And I think you had been in the military for about a year and a half before you went to Vietnam, or a year?
2 years.
Oh, you'd been there almost 2 years.
Yeah, a little bit more than 2 years.
Yeah, and then so then you had become a 19 or 20-year-old man.
20.
Okay, and you were shipped to Vietnam in August.
1965.
And you were a supply specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not a combat soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you were trained for combat.
Well, I wasn't a trained infantryman.
Okay.
But we had training.
Okay.
Basic training.
So you made everything keeping it running.
Yeah.
Okay. And one day somebody came in and said, "We need a volunteer," and up went your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start from there and tell us what was going on.
Now this is where the helicopters come in.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was sitting on my bunk. We were taking a lunch break. It was about 12:30. I won't never forget it. And we had just got back from Pleiku with a convoy. Now, your listeners, please be with me, because a lot of times I get emotional when I talk about this. But I prayed all week for him to help me get me through it so they can hear the story.
Good.
And,
Good. Thank you.
And they come up with a PA system that we had incoming casualties, and they needed some volunteers down to the tarmac, which is part of the landing zone, and a parking area for the aircraft.
Let's go back to that a minute. Now, you said say that again. They took you to the tarmac?
No, we went down there. We ran.
You ran down there,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Down to the tarmac,
Mm-hmm.
and you were waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And about 1 o'clock, there's a sound of a Huey, and he came around facing us, and sat down, turned around, and set the skids down. He opened the doors, and they were maybe 6 to 10 dead. I don't remember, but they were all KI. No wounded. So we unloaded them.
Time out. Did you all open the door?
No, they did.
They did from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't know what you were going to see or what to expect.
No.
And what did you see?
We were looking for wounded,
Uh-huh.
but they were all KIAs. They were all killed. There wasn't nobody left.
Well, were they lined up, or were they piled in, or?
They were just laying in the floor of the helicopter.
Okay, all their heads in one way.
Mm-hmm. And that one, yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't know where they were coming from. And you didn't know what it was going to be when they opened the door.
Yeah.
Okay, take us from there.
Well, we unloaded those 8 or 10, and it's bad enough. But then after they carried those bodies up to a big tent we had fixed up to put them in, a big Chinook, CH-47 Chinook.
That's the helicopter with a wing on both ends.
Mm-hmm. A big transport helicopter. He come around from towards the Hydrang Valley, facing us, and turned around and sat down, set his wheels down. And there was blood dripping between the hinges on the ramp. And he let that ramp down, and what we seen was just unimaginable.
Was this within 30 minutes of the first one landing?
Just a few minutes behind it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So first, you saw a Huey helicopter come in, and that's the helicopter that just has the one blade that goes around in a circle, and it's got a supply compartment in the back. And you all, what you call those a minute ago? Medevac.
Yeah.
Medevac.
Well, they had medevac slicks, which wasn't armed, and then you had your gunships.
So this was a medevac that came in.
No slick.
It was a slick, so it had just come off a battlefield.
You had landed, yeah.
Did you know there was a battle going on?
Yeah, we knew there was a battle going on, yeah.
Okay, all right. So first the small helicopter came in. It had 8 or 10 soldiers in it. And then right after that came a Chinook.
The Chinook, yeah, right behind him.
Tell us about that.
Well, like I said, he turned around, sat down, and you could see blood dripping out of the crack where the ramp, went up. And he let that ramp down, and there was bodies just piled from the back to the way up to the door gunner.
How many?
Well, come find out later on, altogether it was 155.
In that one Chinook?
I don't know, because after we unloaded that one, I went up to the tent to start, cleaning them up. So I don't know if another one come out. I don't think one could have held all 155.
What? Now you were 20. Okay, now tell me about, just for a minute if you can, I'm not sure that's the right word, the mood change or you went there to volunteer and then all of a sudden you're in this spot that must have been just horrific.
Oh, it was devastating.
But you said something to me a minute ago, you didn't let it affect you as much at that time.
At that time, no. We had a job to do.
You had a job to do. Mm-hmm. Now, was there somebody behind you barking at you or to tell you what to do? Did you just know what to do?
No, everybody there was volunteers. There were no officers there. So 2 of us would get up. We started at the back, and 2 of us would get up there and place the bodies on stretchers. Now, these bodies were just piled because it's a hot landing zone, which would mean they were under heavy fire. And they just had to throw them in there and didn't have time to put them on litters. In fact, they had 20 on litters. And then the helicopter prepared to take off, and they put an M16 in the pilot's face and told him he wasn't going anywhere. And they loaded, and here they come. And like I said, when they put that ramp down, you just can't imagine what a sight that was. Very devastating. But at the time, we had a job to do. So.
Okay. But, so you didn't have an officer there, so you guys organized yourselves, and they were landing, and you knew you need to take them to a tent?
Yeah.
You had orders to take them to a tent?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got up, or whoever, was it you that was in the helicopter?
Well, 2 of us would get up there at the time, but you would get physically ill, so you had to get back off. And and 2 more would take your place. You couldn't stay there long because I know Howard knows the stench of death. You just can't get over the stench of death. And those bodies had been out in the hot sun for a couple of days, and they were decomposing.
Uh-huh.
And it could be anywhere from small bullet hole in the head to body parts.
And you said the small holes in the head you thought were executions?
Usually that's a sign of execution, yeah. Because during those battles, the enemy would come up on a wounded and just shoot him between the eyes and kill him.
Militarily, did they have any other choice? I mean, they could have taken a prisoner, but a wounded soldier was still...
To them, they didn't care. Life meant nothing to those people. So if they come up on a wounded American soldier, they would put a gun into their head and kill them. They didn't take prisoners. Not in this particular instance.
Uh-huh. How many helicopters did you unload that day?
Well, I helped unload the Huey and the first Chinook. And it took us a while because, like I said, you would get physically ill and have to get off. And they were placing the litters on, we put them on litters or stretchers. And they would place them on a little thing we call goats. It was just a little cart with a little motor on the front. And they would haul them up to this tent. And then when we got them all off the helicopter, I went up to the tent, or we went up to the tent. And for the rest of the afternoon and all night that night, and about 10 o'clock the next morning, we worked on those bodies just to get them cleaned up, put in body bags. Put them in body bags.
So you put in a 20-hour day.
Yeah, a horrific 20-hour
with
day.
no relief? Did they not?
No.
Were the officers just not paying attention to what was going on?
No. It was just us volunteers. And, it was odd, Randy, that night. It was such a hush in that tent. It was very quiet. No crying, no yelling, no screaming. We were just murmuring between our partners. We had to work in 2-man teams. And it was just strange, quiet, dignified.
Were you identifying bodies, or were you?
Yeah, we had to identify them. They had dog tags. And it seemed to me like we put one in the bag with them and put the other one on the bag. Or kept it. I can't remember. But they had dog tags.
They used to put them in their mouths.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all do like that? Or?
No, I didn't. We didn't do that.
Were you consciously thinking about what units they were from, or?
No, I didn't know at the time.
What? How many soldiers were helping you? 20?
No, there was 10 of us.
10 of you.
5 teams.
Do you ever see any of those people right now, or do you know any of their names, or?
I don't know any of their names. Can't remember them.
Yeah.
They were all part of my unit, but we can't remember the names. I can't remember any of the names.
Yeah. So, okay. After that, at 10 o'clock in the next morning, did you just go to bed?
No.
What happened?
Well, all night long we wore a mask, and you had to keep putting stuff on it too, so you wouldn't get ill. And when we got through, we just went to our tent and just sat on the bunks.
Did anybody come in to talk to you about it?
No.
No. Well, since you were all volunteers, you weren't a unit.
No.
So there was nobody in charge of the volunteers.
Well, we were a unit, but none of the officers was in there. It was just us that volunteered to do that job.
When you read the book We Were Soldiers, or even watch the movie, they talk about how ill-prepared the military was, and the communication to the families and things like that. They were even, sounds to me like they weren't prepared for the casualties.
When they went in, I think it was the 1st and the 5th Regiment or Battalion and the 1st and the 7th. When they went into X-ray, they didn't have any idea of how many enemy was even there. There had been no recon or anything like that. So they had a big mountain there called Chupong Massif, and it went from Vietnam over into Cambodia. And these people would come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they called it, and they just crossed over into Vietnam whenever they got ready.
Mhm.
But turned out they were between 2,500 and 3,100 the enemy killed. I think it was about 4,000 on that mountain, and they had no idea. And I think when they went into X-ray, there was about 400.
400
Yeah.
enemy or 400 soldiers? American soldiers?
Yeah, American soldiers. But they didn't have any idea how many enemy was there.
Well, that's where Freddie Owens said that he lost 200-something of his friends that day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Well, I want to go back to this 19 or 20-year-old man. Did they call you JL back then?
Yeah, my friends did.
What was your rank?
I was PFC, private first class.
Were they all PFCs in there?
No, they were some E4s and E5s.
Did any of them take charge?
No, we just each did what we had to do.
And when you were done working at 10 o'clock, did you all go back to separate tents, or did y'all go to one tent?
No, we didn't. We went back to our bunks. But we didn't go to sleep. There was no sleep. And for days, it was just, a nap here and a nap there. You couldn't sleep.
So nobody talked to you about what had happened?
No.
And then were there more helicopters coming in the next day? Or
No, that was all I remember was those, yeah. But I'm sure that some of the helicopters probably went somewhere else because total kill was 305 Americans and 250 wounded, and one Air Force pilot killed. And the enemy, that was among all the landing zones.
that was the one that got shot down in the movie, I guess. I don't know, maybe not. There was one that got shot down in the movie.
What?
A helicopter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They several got shot down.
Oh, okay.
And Bruce Crandall and Ed Freeman, they was flying they helped fly the force in. They could only go in 60 at the time.
60 what?
Men, and then
Okay.
they'd have to go back and get 60 more.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And they constantly went in under withering fire.
Now, when you say 60 at a time, was that 4 helicopters, 3 helicopters?
4 or 5.
4 or 5?
Mm-hmm. And then they'd have to go back and get more until they got the whole 400 or so, I think.
Do you think those soldiers knew what they were flying into?
No. Even Colonel Moore at the time, he was a lieutenant general when he retired, they didn't know that he asked before they went, but they didn't have any idea how many was there.
And they were hoping to get them all in before they started.
Yeah.
How many were they hoping to have in?
Well, about 400.
About 400, but first they had 60, and then 60 more came in, which meant they had 85 or 90.
Yeah.
And then 60 more came in, and they didn't have 180 when the third thing came in. They probably had 120.
They just kept bringing them in. One of the platoons, they call it the lost platoon, it got separated.
I remember that, yeah.
And they lost most of their men. They got a few of them out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you weren't hungry when you went back.
No.
And you had no coaching.
No.
No contact. You were isolated from the other 10 men.
Well, there was 1 or 2 in my tent. But
Did you all get together and talk about what you had been doing?
no, we never did.
Nobody asked?
Mm-mm. Nobody ever asked.
When did it dawn on you? I mean, when did it start affecting you later in life?
Well, when I came home, it was a few years before it affected me. Of course, I was young and out partying and drinking, and it didn't really affect me. Well, you didn't talk about it back then. And I think around 90, I started having real problems.
That's 25 years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it had been sneaking up on me all the time. I just didn't know it.
What was sneaking up on you?
The PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Well, it wasn't guilt. You didn't do anything wrong.
No, we didn't do anything wrong.
Was it rage? Was it? If you had to identify, what it was that was affecting your behavior.
Yeah. Well, yeah, rage, anger, anxiety, depression, sadness.
Did you know who to have those feelings for?
No.
Did you know who to direct it at?
No. Just sad over what had happened, what had took place.
Just sad.
Yeah, and stayed anxious and depressed all the time.
So what? 25 years later.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Well, I started getting lost, started crying a lot. And didn't know why. Get lost out on the highway, tears just rolling down my cheeks. So I was telling my doctor about it, and he said, "You sound like you're depressed, so I'm going to send you down to the mental health center to be evaluated." And I saw a therapist down there, and she, after I seen her for 10 weeks, she said, "Mr. Tucker said you've got post-traumatic stress disorder due to your service in Vietnam because you've answered all these questions." So I started seeing a psychiatrist, but she never done me any good. She never really talked to me.
Well, now back then they weren't trained.
No.
I mean, PTSD was just something that was starting to.
Mm-hmm.
Although it had gone all the way back to World War II to shell shock, all the way back to World War I is shell shock, and the Civil War it was called Soldier's Heart, and it goes all the way back to Achilles in the Greek wars.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the things in the book, the things that Achilles said, he had post-traumatic stress disorder, but he let his rage out in being a great warrior, and he would release it by killing the enemy.
Yeah.
You didn't have anybody to kill, did you?
No, I didn't have anybody to kill.
Didn't have anybody to blame. And they said you had depression?
Yeah, anxiety, panic attacks, sadness, loneliness.
Isolation.
Isolation. Started drinking real bad, and I guess to cover it up.
And originally you would have nobody to go see about that. Did you ever blame yourself?
No, I never blamed myself. But years later, I was my youngest daughter encouraged me to go over to the clinic, the VA clinic, and seek help. So I went over there, and I was assigned a psychologist, Dr. Richardson.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But that's an amazing story, JL.
Yeah,
thank you for going through that for all of us.
Yeah.
We'll be more in just a minute. You're listening to Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we'll be right back.
The Veteran Next Door will return in a moment.
In a world of rising medical costs and shrinking retirement accounts, many vets are concerned about preserving their precious assets, and some are struggling to provide for the basic personal care they need at a time in their lives when they need it the most. Fortunately, as thanks from a grateful nation, our government created the non-service-connected disability pension with aid and attendance. It provides qualified veterans and their surviving spouses with a tax-free monthly pension to help defray the cost of long-term care for those who need in-home care, assisted living, or skilled nursing care.
I hope you listened to that ad. Call me on the phone if you've got problems with VA benefits as far as this non-service related disability benefit with aid and attendance. You know, that number is 865-525-2323. But, I want to tell you why. There are 3 ways to learn about your veteran benefits for this particular benefit. One is through your VSO officer at the VA, or you may learn about it from an attorney, or you may call a volunteer veteran advocate like myself. I think it's important that you know the difference between the 3 roles. First of all, the veteran service officers are good men and women who represent the VA, and they represent you. But you have to remember they are not licensed to give you the proper financial advice to qualify yourself before you present yourself to the Veterans Administration. For that reason, since they cannot give you advice on what to do because they are not licensed, they have to look at you as you are when you walk in the door. That's causing a lot of people to be told that they don't qualify for that benefit. The next issue is attorneys. I'm what's called, again, a volunteer veteran advocate. But you need to know I have the proper licenses to give you the advice that you need to qualify for this benefit. This means that I can tell you whether you even need an attorney or not for your application. Many attorneys are charging veterans up to $400 for the first interview to tell them whether or not they need an attorney. So this is the important part. Your volunteer veteran advocate who has the proper licenses can save you in legal bills and can save you a declination from the Veterans Administration, and it's absolutely free. So why would you pay an attorney, or why would you go to someone who does not have the proper licenses to give you the proper advice before you talk to a volunteer veteran advocate? So if you are a veteran, the surviving spouse of a veteran, or a family member of a veteran who may need these services, call Randall Baxter, 865-525-2323, and schedule an interview. Again, it's absolutely free to get the proper advice that you need. Again, 865-525-2323. I hope to talk to you today.
The following is brought to you by the Veteran Friendly Congregation Initiative. All right, I have a question for you. Did you know that veterans are 5 times more likely to seek help from their clergy than every VA service combined? Your congregation could help promote awareness of the needs of those sacrificing their time and effort to support our country. You are invited to join a forum regarding the challenges of our veterans returning from war and how you can help veterans seek the benefits, services, and support they have earned. When War Comes Home, the forum, May 1st, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Knox County Community Action Center at 2247 Western Avenue in Knoxville, Tennessee. Your congregation can be an environment of acceptance for veterans and their families. Register online at tnvhc.org. That's tnvhc.org. Or you can call 865-253-2794. That's 865-253-2794. The When War Comes Home Forum. May 1st. We'll see you there.
Now back to the veteran next door.
Folks are proud to stand behind Old Glory as she waves.
Welcome back to the Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we're talking to J.L. Tucker. And what a story you have, sir. You volunteered to step into something that you've carried. Well, what is that, 45 years, 50 years?
49 years in November.
49 years.
Mm-hmm.
And all you did was raise your hand and said, I'll help you with that.
Yes.
For you folks that are just tuning in, J.L. Tucker wound up volunteering for a mission. He didn't know what it was, but it wound up being unloading the bodies from the Battle of Idrang.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you had to process them and identify them and those kind of things, and had no coaching or counseling after that. You just reported back to duty and went back to work and brought all those memories home with you.
Yeah.
And those memories changed your life, didn't they?
Yeah, forever.
Tell me how. Tell me how.
Well, after I went through all the years of anger and drinking, I drank for a long time, and being sad and depressed, and I wound up going to see Dr. Richardson at the VA clinic. He's a wonderful Christian man.
This time out, let me ask you one question. Were you married while you were in Vietnam?
No.
So you married when you came home?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
About 3 years after I came home, yeah. And Dr. Richardson talked to me for 1 hour. And he said, you know, J.L., I'm not going to put you on medicine. I don't think you need that. But he said, I know what you do need. And it's a group of men called Legacy Peer Support Group. And it's all, then it was all Vietnam veterans. He urged me to go see them and meet them. And still it was 6 months before I went. But, you know, when I walked in that room, I just felt the love and that they had for one another. And immediately I felt love. And I just fell in love with that group.
And that group, Legacy Peer Support Group.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a group dedicated to
talking about your problems, getting it out in the open, helping each other.
And they're all Vietnam veterans?
Well, I think we got one or two Iraqi veterans now.
Oh, okay. So it's starting to grow, starting to build.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's went from one group to two groups, and then they got one in Sevier County and one in Blount County. Is that right, Howard?
Yes. Okay. So what is your role in that group now?
Well, there's three parts to that. There's a Legacy Peer Support Group and Vet to Vet Tennessee, which I was honored to ask to become the vice president of, and I accepted. And then the other part is the Knoxville Veterans Mental Health Council. I'm not sure what my role is with that.
And that's a group that I've had the pleasure of being a part of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you take your experience in Vietnam and apply it to what you're doing today? Or do you?
No, well, I don't know how to answer that. Well, okay, yeah. I take what I've learned and I apply it to helping others.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, like right now, we've got a bicycle drive going to give to our veterans that's off the street, homeless, or maybe live in a halfway house, so that they get into the Veterans Treatment Court if they qualify. And so we're very involved in collecting bicycles, so they'll have a way to go look for a job. So we found out that they was walking 1 to 2 miles a day just to put in a job interview, and that was just intolerable.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed and the rest of the Vet Tennessee and Legacy decided to start collecting bicycles. So I've been heavily involved in that. And now I think they're collecting clothes also, good used clothing. See, some of these vets got their families with them. So we get, with bicycles all sizes, don't make no difference what.
Well, do these veterans know who you are? I mean, do they know your story?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, not the ones off the streets don't, but the ones in Legacy do.
Do you know their stories?
No. No, I do the ones in Legacy, but not the ones off the street. Now, Howard, he's a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you, Howard?
Yes.
And he knows more about that.
In the Veterans Court?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you guys, for the past couple of weeks, we've had interviews, and for 6 weeks before that, we were talking about the veteran-friendly congregations
Mm-hmm.
and the veterans courts, and you guys are part of the push behind that.
Uh-huh.
And your role in particular, what is your role?
Well, my role is just to get out and do whatever, needs to be done, like the bicycles and the clothing. Of course, we have a business meeting every week before the group meeting starts. And I listen to Ed and Freddie a lot there. They do most of the talking. But I just do whatever, like I did in Vietnam. I just do what's asked of me.
Okay. And where do you think this is going to go? Where do you want it to go?
Well, I'm a lot better than I was when I joined that group, but I'm like Howard. I don't want to be 100% cured, because I don't want to leave this group because we're reaching out to these veterans that don't know anything about PTSD, and they need to know, and they're learning that through us.
And how can they get in touch with you in some way?
Yes, well, they can call me at 865-463-8127.
Okay, repeat that for us one more time.
865-463-8127. My cell number is 865-314-6578.
And if someone called you, and I understand from last week, somebody called you almost right after the show was over.
Yeah.
And I know we don't want to talk about their names or anything, but what was the gist?
Well, she called very concerned about her son. He had been a heavy drinker for years. He was totally disabled and drawing benefits, I guess, from the VA. But he had started drinking whiskey, and she was really concerned about his health. He'd had 4 heart attacks, lost all his teeth, just in sad shape. And she asked me what she needed to do about it. And I said, well, you need to encourage him to see a psychologist. I said, he's in VA medical care? And she said, yeah. I said, he needs to see a psychologist. She said, well, what will that cost him? I said, it won't cost him anything. So anyway, I give her our website, and she and she was going to give it to her daughter because she didn't want to make her son mad at her, and she was going to check the website out.
His problem was not a problem that unique to him. In several of my interviews, even with the World War II veterans, they talked about the drinking problems they had when they came home.
Yeah.
I had one even say that after he went and talked to a minister, his drinking left him. Yeah. And I looked at him and said, "Your drinking left you?" He went, "Yes, sir, my drinking left me." So okay, so if we've got a veteran out there that needs help, we go to 865-463-8127, or they can call you at 314-6578. You can also go to tnvhc.org on the internet. J.O., wrap us up here.
Well, I'd like to take this time to say a few words about my youngest daughter, Christy Pond, who's got into this bicycle drive. She's done an excellent job. She's working very hard at it. She's took it to heart to help get bicycles for these veterans. And Legacy loves her and appreciates what she's doing, and so do I. She's a great young lady.
J.O., we want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Randy.
You've been listening to The Veteran Next Door. I'm your host, Randy Baxter, and we'll see you next week.
Have a place to call my home for all the empty years behind me. It's good to know I'm not all alone.
I never was a soldier, but I played one as a child. History was good to me. I grew up free and wild.
You've been listening to Randall Baxter and the Veteran Next Door.